Early morning, Santa Fe, the rabbits are out. Everything's quiet and still. I've been reflecting on the heart. What to say of the heart? So many people I've worked with and seen and known and over the years. And most of us, you and I'd almost say all of us, carry secrets and wounds and grievances and the past, hurts, anger, rage, all of it carried in what we call the heart. It's not really the heart, although the heart is the metaphor we might use, or in some way the recipient of this. But really, in many ways, it's just the truth of us. Denied emotion, suppressed power, suppressed anger, innocence, occluded over the years by control. Most of this is just the pent-up stuff from childhood, really, that, through conditioning, through time, through necessity, through becoming someone, is covered over. Just becomes part of the fabric of who we are. It's the nature of us. But the problem with that is that it then still lives in the energy system and creates a kind of hidden, secret world. A secret us. A hidden us. And over the years, that hidden us, that secret us, becomes more and more kind of entrenched, more and more layered, more and more hidden. And the longer that goes on, the more almost chronic that hiding becomes, until it's virtually untouchable. Although still it breaks out, seeps out in all sorts of different ways, shapes and forms. Some of them not healthy, some of them through illness. And inside that longing, inside that hidden us, is a longing for truth, a longing for intimacy, a longing for directness, a longing to live from the heart, a longing to live from the truth of us, from the deepermost. It's sad how many of us are kind of locked in that sin. It's not a syndrome, but locked in that way, hiding the heart's truths because it's too much, because we learnt these ways, or because we're frightened of what will be like, or what will happen, or the consequences, or it just seems almost impossible to access that deeper most of us, that deeper, the truth of us. For some, it's like a volcano in there. For others, it's like an ocean of grief in there. All bound together and it's entwined. And yet, the truth of it is, we can't really live a true life. A direct life, an honest life, until somehow all that seems to guard the heart is dissolved somehow. And I know this. I'm not preaching from a high pedestal in my own life because of pain and wounding, sensitive child, got really hit hard in my teenage years with the demise, complete collapse of my parents' relationship into a catastrophic divorce, that was the fallout of which was, terrible and very destructive, particularly for my mother. And that just was, during my formative years was, so painful that I couldn't, I just diverted it into a wildness and a hedonism and an escape and a, kind of craziness within myself. And it, that avoidance of pain lasted 20, 30 years in addiction and dysfunction and cut off really from that heart, that hurt so much. Oh man. And then, through grace and through persistence, everything started to come undone. And then I had to meet and allow to flow that river of grief, that, volcano of rage and anger. And it took time, and it took, stuff like catharsis, bodywork, rebirth, endless amounts of, endless amounts of diving in with a willingness to not know what was going to happen. And it was hard. But by and by, with attending to these things, something started to happen, and the floodgates did open, and the ocean did pour out, and the rage and the grief and the anger and the grievance and, everything, all these emotions buried, seemingly inaccessible, started to flow again. And, I'm certainly not saying that's easy, but I am saying if you want to know a deeper intimacy with yourself and with life, and if you want to be true somehow to how you feel, gain access to, your deepermost, your intuition, your almost your soul, but not really your soul, certainly not theoretically speaking, then this has to, maybe happen. And it's unique for everybody. It's unique for each of us. although there are similarities. The similarities are whatever has been locked up inside through necessity, through survival, that has to start coming open. In many ways, all it takes is willingness. Willingness. When I first started realizing that I was hiding from how I felt, this was so many years ago, then I saw that I couldn't carry on turning away. Many turn away, it's understandable. But for myself, for some reason, I realized I couldn't keep turning away. I couldn't keep avoiding. And maybe some instinct just, guided me to that. Maybe karma, I had no idea what that meant. But suddenly, looking back, I see there was a willingness. It's primary, really. The willingness to meet what is there anyway. Because it's there. And if it's there, it's there. And if it's there, it's casting its influence upon our lives, whether it's held in darkness or the shadow or behind the wall, or it's out in the light. Just because we hide it or it is hidden doesn't mean it's inert. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have any, effect. Au contraire. We're going up a hill. It doesn't mean it's somehow neutral. It means it casts its influence in shadow ways that we don't see, but we feel, because everything is... Hold on, there's dogs now. Because ultimately, everything is trying to get to the light of union. This is one of those mysteries, unknown. Everything is trying to get to the light of awakeness, of union. Everything is trying to dissolve into the one. So if you get that and see that, then what is neglected, denied, hidden in the shadows by us is still seeking to get to the light, right? And so how does it do that? It does that through the mirror of the world. It does that through experience. Experience is the invitation to open to a deeper knowing within us. Experience is the invitation to union, and whatever stands in the way of that invitation to union is trying to come to the surface, to be known, to be held, to be seen in that unconditionality. So pushing away what the heart holds in a shadowy way, in its shadows, works only to a limited extent, but in order to keep it at bay, we have to develop either a hardness or a story or a defendedness or a mask or a victimness. Whatever it is, whatever cloak we wear, whatever mask we hide behind, it doesn't really matter, because there we are, just denying ourselves. So first is the willingness to open the door of the heart and of the body and the subtle energy system. The second, in many ways, is the willingness to meet what is there. And that's not a one-time deal. That's an ever unfolding journey. Requires a certain fortitude of spirit, courage, persistence, grace, surrender. Fortitude, my friend, fortitude. Some don't have the grace or the fortitude or the willingness to do that. And it's understandable. It's almost like you have to, break through something, break through the hard shell that doesn't actually serve, but seems to serve. It's like the butterfly emerging from the chrysalis, from the pupa. It's like breaking out of the shell. It's like unplugging from the matrix. It's like learning to breathe underwater. And there's an intensity, certainly at first. There's an intensity of feeling as a seeming volcano, avalanche, tsunami comes. But in my experience, we're only given really as much as we can take. That's the truth of things. And then maybe we have to go back to kind of closing the door, closing the door again. And that's okay. But once it's started opening, to a certain extent, the rest is inevitable. It can't be rushed, it can't be forced. It can be courted. I call it courting the depth of us. And time, nobody knows how long it takes, because you're not opening the door up to a destination that says, oh, I've done it now. Oh, I've healed my wounds. Oh, I've healed the past. Oh, I'm no longer susceptible to feeling. This is nonsense. This is a dream. The fact is, once you open the door to how you feel and how you have felt and all you've denied, the door is open. And now the sensitivity, the feeling, the truth, the rawness is yours to deal with. Life is lived in a very different way. It doesn't stop you feeling anything. In fact, it opens you up to feeling more. But there's no past backlog denied. It's very direct. It's very real. It's very true. It's very natural. You don't have to pretend anymore. If pretending is what you've done. And everybody who wears a mask, to some extent, is pretending. We live in a world of pretense, of masks, of personalities. And we collude and play games in that world because we have to, because everybody is, because that's what we do. But behind all of that is the truth of us. And what I'm saying is, when you show the willingness to yourself to take down the mask and meet what is behind that mask, behind that wall, then you start to live direct. And you stop some of the strategies. And there's something really beautiful about that, something so honest. Who cares what people think? You're not trying to be cruel to them. You're just trying to be true to yourself. And there's a big difference.